If you're building your ABA company and you're tired of guessing, this is for you. We built the BCBA blueprint to give you real structure, systems, and support without the fluff. Details are in the description. Today, we are graced with the presence of Matt Harrington. Matt is going to talk to us today about ethical ABA marketing, and we're going to talk a little bit about the aggressive things that are happening in the market on the marketing side. And when you go through the blueprint series and you do the foundation, you do the structure, you get into dividing up your business and making sure that you're taking care of all the functional areas of your business. The one probably most skipped or most overlooked area is marketing. And I am a huge proponent of paying attention to your marketing right out of the gate. And the reason is we're in a market that is not constrained by demand. So we often let our guard down. We're not too worried about it. We've got a waiting list. We don't really need to worry about clients right now. We've got plenty of those. And we don't really focus on the marketing. But the 2 points that I always make are, number one, your marketing is for humans. We have humans on the input side of our business and we have humans on the output side of our business. So we have employees that are going to check us out, future employees that are going to check us out and learn about us before they apply for jobs. Or once they've applied for a job and they're going to an interview, they're going to research your company. Where are they going to do that? They're going to do that online. What are they going to see? They're going to see your marketing or lack thereof. And the second part is, if you're not actively managing your reputation, it leaves a gap. It leaves an opportunity for someone else to come in and manage your reputation for you. And with all of the aggressive tactics that are in play out there in the market right now, and all of the parties that are entering the market that I refer to as morally flexible or ethically flexible, we want to make sure that we're protecting ourselves, so that we're protecting our reputation and building on that for everyone who is perceiving us. Anyone who sees us, they should immediately know what we're about and why we exist. So this all comes back to having a solid mission, having a solid vision, having your strategic objective out there in front of you, and being public about it, sharing what your goals, what your strategies are, and what sets you apart. So with that, I'd like to introduce Matt Harrington. He's a BCBA, an LBA, the founder of ABA Digital Marketing. Welcome, Matt. Thank you for putting this together and joining us today.
Thanks so much. I agree with a lot of the points you made, and I appreciate the ability to hop on and into your Facebook group, to the folks live, to the folks in the recording. Thank you for giving me your time. I do a lot of presentations for ABA CEUs to marketing work. And I think one thing that's always important is to acknowledge how valuable time is, whether you are a BCBA trying to hit 30 billable hours, or whether you're a business owner trying to work under 90 hours this week. I very much appreciate your time being here, and I hope that this gives you a lot of value in a way that is very efficient. So to that, we're going to talk about ethical marketing and local outreach in ABA. Specifically, we're going to be talking about sustainable strategies for growth. One of the distinctions that I'm going to be making here is that there are marketing tactics that you can use when you have a massive budget, and there are marketing tactics that you can use when you don't have a massive budget. Tools inherently are not ethical or unethical. It is the messaging that we apply to these tools. And so when I speak about ethical marketing, it's not going to be that spending more than $5,000 in Google Ads is unethical. If you have the budget to spend $5,000 in Google Ads, go for it. $50,000, I don't care. That's not inherently unethical. However, if your Google ad advertises no wait list, but you can't see a child for another 3-4 months, that's where it gets unethical, right? So marketing at its core is behavior change. It is, let me show you a stimuli and then get a desired for behavior from you. If that stimuli is untruthful and is demonstrating contingencies that are not present, that's where the ethics come in. And so in this presentation, we're going to be looking at what we can do ethically in terms of telling the truth and strategies for getting that truth louder and louder. Now, Here's the specific things we're going to be talking about. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about myself so you know who you're listening to if you don't know me. We're going to talk about why ethical marketing matters and why, as a BCBA, I'm incredibly passionate about this topic. We're going to talk about what I call the PE playbook. I say private equity because that's typically where the large cash budgets come from. But honestly, I've seen large marketing budgets upwards of the 10 to 15,000 range in startups, just privately funded from a couple wealthy people. So it's private equity. Really, it's just those big aggressive marketing strategies that we see. We're going to talk about local outreach, my preferred strategy and my recommendation for most ABA clinics to cut through the noise and get to what really matters. So the why, the who, and the how, and then we're going to have room for a little bit of back and forth if y'all would like. Who am I? I am a BCBA. I've been a BCBA for 4 years. I'm certified in Arizona. That was a process to get that certification. Anybody who knows that license, anybody who knows Arizona will know why. And I've been in the field for 11 years. So I started as a caretaker for an adult with autism. I met my first BCBA who worked part-time as a BCBA, part-time as a farmer. And so I said, hey, I could do this BCBA thing and be a farmer. That's great. And unfortunately, I'm still in suburbia. I don't have my farm yet, but I have been in the field ever since. My specialties lie in severe behavior, specifically self-injurious behavior, and verbal behavior. I've worked anywhere from hospital settings, inpatient units, to schools, to clinical and home based. I've done the RBT to clinical director back and forth plenty of times, and across plenty of settings. I've seen a lot of ABA businesses. I've worked in them. I've felt them. I felt the strain of not having enough clients and dealing with your best RBTs churning as a result of it, thus decreasing the quality overall. And I've also dealt with the other side of the equation, where you're spending thousands and thousands on marketing, but you can't effectively serve the folks that you're actually with right now. So how did all of this turn me into a marketer? How did that come about? When I got my BCBA, I started the Behaviorist Book Club. It's got a community on Facebook called the ABA Cafe. And over those 4 years, we've provided about 4,500 to 5,000 CEUs for behavior analysts. However, when I first started the Behaviorist Book Club, it was just a podcast and a Facebook group that nobody was in. And I realized that I had to do something to get people to learn about me. I thought I had something good to share. I love disseminating research, but how do people know about me? That's where I learned marketing in the online space. I then used those same strategies and started to help the companies that I was working for as a BCBA. And thus, the ABA Digital Marketing Agency was born, and I stepped into it full time in November. So, there's going to be four big ideas during this presentation. These are ideas that if I could shout these from the rooftop 24 hours a day for the rest of my life, these are the things that I would want to be telling clinicians about marketing, especially clinician owners. Here's big idea number one. I started my business. I want to be a clinician because I want to provide good ABA. I didn't start a business to worry about marketing. Okay, I hear that a lot. That's a valid struggle. But the reality is, if you're a business owner, you are a marketer. If you have a service to offer, even if you're not selling it to the client in front of you, you're selling a service to insurance, getting cash flow back. If you are profit negative, anything, if you're a business owner, try and get more people to engage with you. That is a marketing role inherently. Just like people say everything comes back to sales, it's a similar thing. Everything comes back to marketing. And the reason why it's so important for you to accept this and step into a business owner who also cares about marketing is because you might not care about marketing, but your competitors do. And oftentimes the competitors who are the biggest, the ones who are scaling the fastest, and sometimes even the ones who provide the crappiest service, well, they're actually the best marketers of themselves because they have to be, because they have to continually get more clients in to support their scale. So even an ABA owner who has one location and is completely happy onboarding 1 to 2 kids, is ethically discharging, everything's going fine, they still need to be marketers. They still need to let people know about their services, because if they don't, then the only way that people will hear about ABA is from those other ones, those crappy services. So as a business owner, you are a marketer, and that is why this type of content is important, regardless if you need a wait list or not. So, ethical marketing. Ethical marketing can make or break not only your business, but also the field in general. We hear it all the time that ABA has a reputation problem. ABA is littered with bad actors and bad history, and sometimes it feels like an inability to take responsibility for the harm that we have caused in the past and sometimes are currently perpetuating. The clients, the caregivers, the folks that you are trying to get to your services so you can offer them these amazing outcomes are going to have a first impression of you. They might not have a first impression of ABA. You might already be starting behind the 8 ball because they are assuming that ABA is abusive or it's fat or they've had a bad experience in the past. But your first impression, the way you present yourself digitally, not face to face, but before they even step into your office, is going to forever change the way that that person views your services. Here's an example. I was working I was the BCBA lead for a smaller ABA company. I stepped in with a new caregiver and a client who was onboarding into our services. That day, it just so happened that the person who came to kind of clean up the clinic's yards, the landlord, they just didn't come that day. And they were supposed to come, they didn't come. And so in general, the clinic on the outside was looking not so good. In addition, the sign had fallen off, so we had like a laminated sign on the front door. Now, these were things that to me was purely cosmetic. They had nothing to do with the way that the clinic actually was run. It had nothing to do with the services that were actually happening. However, 3 months later, that same client discharged. They were another ABA company and they ended up going with them. We weren't even finished with our authorization. And I remember the parents and I had a good rapport. Some, what ended up making you decide to switch? And I'll never forget, they said, the first day we saw the clinic, we were immediately worried. We want the best for our daughter. And honestly, it seemed like the clinic was just thrown together. We weren't even sure if we were in the right place because it was so hazard and everything was messy and it didn't feel like a safe place for our daughter. And so then when YZ happened, it just became the immediate next step was to switch. See, the reality is that the thing that happened right before the switch, the thing that made them pull the trigger, was not the reason they were leaving. It was because the perspective of the clinic, the first impression was that it was messy and disorganized. That is the same, that view of your location, not just on the outside with the trees and the yard and the sign and things like that, but your social media presence, your website, the way folks onboard into your services, all of those things, when they're done well and they're done truthfully and you follow up like you're supposed to and it is a smooth experience, that sets the correct first impression that then makes the later things that inevitably happen, like an RBT getting sick or an RBT stopping services or a BCBA doing something else, all of those things become much less significant because they have that good first impression. It becomes easier to swallow. The other reason ethical marketing matters is the field's reputation. Like I said, a lot of bad ABA companies. You can blame the system, you can blame insurance, you can blame big money from private equity. But the reality is that as an ABA owner, the only thing you can really control is your own reputation. And so if at scale, all ABA companies start to present more ethical marketing strategies, the field is going to improve their reputation. Now, I can't control everyone, and you can't control everyone either, but you can control your own reputation. And finally, as I said, ethical marketing at its core is just speaking truthfully. It is putting content on your site, on your advertisements, in your marketing strategies that ultimately are things that you can follow through with. So we don't get to promise magical fixes. We don't get to promise no wait lists just to get people in our system. Ethical marketing is educational, it's value adding, and at its core, it gives folks the tools to make the right decision. This was a very big mindset shift for me, is when I realized that anything from the marketing and sales side is just providing information. You're meeting with a local pediatrician. You step into that office and you're thinking, okay, how can I get this person to send me referrals? The goal of local outreach. You need to tell that pediatrician, you need to communicate the value and the outcomes that you provide your clients. But instead of saying all this marketing speak and all of this data and all this thing, think about it like you're instead just sharing truthfully the outcomes that you're seeing. You're educating the pediatrician on what you do differently, why you do it differently, and the results that you're seeing. And then you're leading them the choice to refer to you or somebody else. There's no commission structure, which is illegal in most places. There's no there's no extra donuts when you refer somebody. It is simply that you're providing education, you're giving proof that the value add is there, and then you're following up and seeing the results come your way. Now, when things go wrong, when we see a lot of unethical marketing, which does, of course, happen in our field, at its core, it is lying to the consumer, whether that be a pediatrician or somebody else, a caregiver or something similar. No wait list when there is a wait list is the most common example. We provide amazing outcomes, and all of our clients get to say their first words within 3 months of starting services to a pediatrician, right? That's just not truthful because that's not something that we can guarantee. And when one provider lies, it looks bad on everyone. In the perfect world, BCBAs who are tied to the ethics code would hold companies to a high standard. They would refuse to work for companies that market themselves unethically. But the reality is, and today with the cost of living and other factors, it's not as simple as just expecting BCBAs to always be the one to hold folks to standard. It'd be great if they did, but the only true way to drown out those who are marketing unethically for both your company's reputation and the field's reputation is to become louder, is to become more heard than everyone else. And that is what marketing is. It's becoming louder and sharing something that is actually valuable. Big idea number 2. In terms of sharing something that is valuable, client quality and outcomes is more important than anything else. Without quality outcomes, without happy clients, your marketing budget will always balloon and you will eventually, inevitably, go out of business unless you have massive amounts of investments coming in, aka the PE-backed companies. The reason why this happens is because in order to use your ads to ad spend or SEO or any of these marketing services to get another client, it costs a specific amount of money. It costs $3,000, for example, might be your ad budget for a month to get one valid opportunity on your waitlist. That $3,000 is probably the cheapest it's ever going to be. Now, there's ways to optimize. There's ways to maybe get it to 2,500 or 2,800, but in a year, it's not going to cost 1,000. It's going to cost 3,500. In 5 years, it might cost 1,000 or 8,000. Your marketing budget is always going to expand if you're using paid marketing strategies, even SEO, which is generally seen as more of the cheaper option, but happens over the long term. The fix to that is referrals. The fix to that is by creating incredibly happy clients who get incredible outcomes, who then have caregivers who send you more people your way, because referrals are free. You give amazing outcomes. They send you more people so you can give more outcomes, who then send you more people you can give more outcomes to. And that's why client quality is a key marketing metric here. And the amount of folks that you're getting from referrals is something you absolutely should be tracking. Here's a quick tip. If you are tracking any marketing metrics, Track the KPIs, track the conversions, track the cost per click, but also track the number of referrals you get from clients. Because if that number is not going up, then ultimately you're never going to be able to scale and even sustain your current marketing budget. It's always going to get pushed. And hey, we know how tighter margins are getting with the cost of living and insurance not adjusting to that. So this is important for your long-term success. So let's talk about the PE playbook. Think of this as the aggressive marketing playbook. This is when there's seems like an ungodly amount of marketing budget to spend. And oftentimes this is marked by the rapid transfer and expansion into multiple different markets, oftentimes chasing insurance rates. Now, to be clear, I have no problem with any ABA company expanding if they're providing good ABA services. Full stop. Private equity inherently, in my opinion, is not unethical. Private equity that optimizes for the client outcomes is unethical. So I say PE, it's easy to poke fun at the big players, but if you're providing high quality ABA services, I'm with you, expand like crazy. So what do? Well, the first thing that I notice is that they templatize their best practices. A great example of this is if you go to inbloom.com. I think it's Inbloom ABA. It's a big company in Florida. Go to any of their location pages. They are nearly identical. For every location they open up, they create a page on their website. They list the names, they use the right keywords, and that page ends up ranking in Google. You search up ABA in Jacksonville, Florida, and you're probably going to find Inbloom within the top 3 to 4 options. The reason is because they fine-tuned it. Every single location gets the same local SEO treatment. They don't have to reinvent the wheel. They don't have to re-strategize. It's the same thing. They also get a fully optimized Google business profile. And oftentimes they get the same ad campaign. An ad campaign that works in Wisconsin will likely also work in Jacksonville. Not guaranteed, of course, things are different, but generally speaking, it's looking pretty good. The other thing they do is they go into markets and outspend competition. I've seen this every so often in those heavy reimbursement rate environments. So let's say you go into a place, you're using Google Ads and you're paying $5,000 a month and you're getting 5 clients. Great results, keep going. You could just ride this out for the rest of the time. And then a big player comes in and instead of spending 5,000, they spend 30,000. Suddenly they're getting all the clicks. For you to compete, you now have to balloon your budget up to 10,000. You can't support that, so you end up having to terminate your ads. This inflation of the price per click, the cost per click that you're seeing on your ad conversions, as they get it unsustainable, they can then back their budget down as well. Next, they create relationships with insurance to get these preferred partnerships or referrals. Now, this is dependent on the market, but sometimes there are kind of one-on-one relationships with a big company and an insurance, and referrals end up getting flown their way. And finally, they rapidly onboard staff and clients to ensure low waitlist times. Now, those clients oftentimes churn because the low quality of services, they end up going to someplace else. But because there's another client waiting to replace them, they optimize for as many people as possible so that they can always fill up that ongoing churn of people leaving. And then they hire more people and then they get more clients and then people leave, et cetera, et cetera. So what can we take from this? Why is it worth learning? Because not all of these things require a large budget. In fact, I would argue that let's say you go to inbloom.com and you see their local landing page, and then you go to their Google business profile. You can create your own strong local SEO strategy. It won't be perfect. It won't be fully optimized. You'll probably need some expertise to get it, exactly what you're wanting. But you can get pretty darn close to copying their marketing strategies. The same thing that they have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to optimize and test for, you can do the same thing with your website. Now, I don't mean copy word for word, of course. I don't mean plagiarize, but study the page, right? Why is it that they put Bartram Park, Florida in the headline? Why is it that they put Jacksonville, Florida in the body of the paragraph? Why do they have an interactive Google Maps within that landing page? And why do they put another section that says check out your insurance? The reason is because that's best practices for local SEO. And so instead of paying the $300,000, $500,000 it takes to, optimize for that, instead just learn what they're doing and then apply it to your own business. You can even do the same thing, and most people don't know this, for meta ads. You can go, it's public information. In fact, you guys can still see my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So people don't know this. This is the coolest thing. Anytime an ad is published in Meta, it is completely free and public information. You go to facebook.com/ads library. You're going to look in all ads, and you're going to look at In Bloom Autism. And look what you can see. All of their ads. And here's a tip. If it was launched way back, as far back as you can go, this is June 6, 2024, and they're still running it now, right? It's active, which means it's still being run. That means that this is an ad that is working for them. They wouldn't spend, this is almost a year's worth of ad spend if it wasn't getting results, right? So you could look at these ads and see what's working, right? They have a clear strategy, right? They put the insurances there, they put ABA therapy. This is their copy, enroll your child today. Now, of course, you can't look at their targeting, you can't look at their cost per click. There's more to this than just copy pasting ads, but you can see a lot here, right? And things like that, where you are reverse engineering things that you're seeing. That is a crucial part to succeeding in marketing without the massive amount of resources that you have that a private equity company has. Now, don't mishear me. Ads are hard and they're difficult to get right. Do not copy paste in Bloom ads and expect to see good results. There's a lot more that goes into that. But it's a good starting point. And the same way with local SEO, it's a great starting point. We're likely not going to be able to have the ad budget to outspend our competition, but we can target different keywords, play more creatively, and focus on relationships, both with insurances and other practices through local outreach, to be able to scale in that similar way, right? So can we spend 30,000 on Google Ads? Probably not. Can we call up each insurance company multiple times a month to see if they have any referrals and to demonstrate strong outcomes and to report on our quality, and then do care collaboration with pediatricians and SLPs and OTs to create a strong referral network? Oh yeah, we can. And of course, we don't want to do the last one, rapidly onboard staff just to let them churn. I don't really like that. I'd rather actually, care about my staff. Big idea number 3. You need to understand why the PE playbook exists, and why they scale so fast. Now, it's becoming more commonly talked about, but PE companies, they don't care about ABA. They see a business that has a certain amount of revenue, a certain amount of expenses that ends up in a certain amount of EBITDA, and then they pay 5 to 10 times that profit for the year to purchase the company, with the expectation to push cash in, expand the company, and then sell it 5 to 7 years later. Now, this is not, this is not the rule that everyone follows, but this is generally the playbook. This is the flow. So the reason why they constantly are expanding and scaling is it's because they have this massive external pressure from investors to increase the profit of the business. The best way to increase profit is to scale, right? You can only cut expenses back so far. However, you do not have that pressure if you do not have investors looking at you, right? So I talk a lot about scaling ABA companies with marketing, but remember, you don't have to scale your ABA company. An ABA company that has lean expenses, a strong referral network, 25 clients, 4 BCBAs, and a clinic director, like that is a successful ABA company that will make you, as a business owner, a decent amount of cash flow, right? That could be the goal for you. And if that is the goal for you, then remember, we're talking about scaling here, but think you don't have to scale just to scale. Don't scale just because In Bloom scales, right? Scale because you want to scale. So why local outreach? We've talked about ethical marketing. We've talked about, PE back. Why do I care so much about local outreach? Because local outreach, dropping the simplest version, right? Dropping flyers off at a pediatrician, that creates referral relationships. Getting referrals from other providers ultimately, as it kind of where it fits into the styles of marketing, is faster than long-term strategies like social media or local SEO. But it is not nearly as expensive to implement as ad spend. So when you think about kind of the way you market things, or the opportunities you have to market, very simply, SEO is going to be cheap and it happens over a long period of time. Ads are going to be expensive and you get results right away within 2 to 3 months. In the middle, that zone that I love, where it happens faster than SEO, but it's not as expensive as ads, is local outreach, making it, in my opinion, one of the best ways that an ABA company can scale if they don't have massive amounts of marketing budget to spend. Local outreach also is better suited for more flexible owner operated agencies because meeting with an owner is a much better experience for another provider, especially if you're talking to other owner operators, than meeting with a clinical director who is 10 levels away from referrals and has to deal with a bunch of, red tape. The ability of small to mid-sized ADA companies to move faster and respond to opportunities faster is the competitive advantage over the big bloated PE companies that take 6 to 9 months to develop a strategy. Local outreach also, and this is why as a BCBA, it will always be close to my heart, increases client outcomes by improving care coordination. I can't tell you how many times as a BCBA, I would go to the psychiatrist's office, I would present the data, and the resulting medication is a 10 times better dosage than we would have gotten in another scenario, right? It became a much better experience for the client, and the client made a lot more progress because we were collaborating. Same with pediatricians, same with SLPs, OTs. Ultimately, client outcomes, which we know has to be one of our key things to look at and track, is improved when we focus on local outreach. Big idea number 4 and the last one of our conversation. All marketing costs something. Make sure you are going to be willing to pay for it. Google ads, Facebook ads, they work. 100% they work, but they cost a lot of cash. I think $3,000 to start. Yes, you can do it with less, but focus. Most of the time I see 3,000 as the starting budget. Local outreach, right? What are we talking about? It's a lot cheaper and faster than SEO and ads, but you know what? It's going to take a lot more work. There's more groundwork, which we're going to cover today, my process for local outreach. So it's going to take more work. It's going to take more, legwork on that. SEO, right? Great strategy. It's less effortful than local outreach, but it's going to take a lot more time, 6 to 9 months to start seeing results. And even social media, right? Posting consistently on your Facebook, your Instagram. I rarely see clients get generated from pure social media alone. It happens. There are companies out there that are able to do it, but it's pretty expensive to do successfully. So yes, content is there. You need to have an active social media account if you have a business, 1, 2, even 3 posts a week, but you're probably not going to be generating much clients from them. So marketing costs something, right? SEO takes time, ads take money, local outreach takes effort. Just know that you got to be willing to pay it. So who are we going to target for our local outreach? Local outreach works best scale. We want to be doing it at a large enough volume, which means that we're not just going to target the 5 pediatricians who are closest to our clinic. They might be great leads that we should focus on, but we're going to need a lot more than 5 to get the results we're looking for. I like to say that local outreach really only starts after the 150 to 200 contact mark. We got to push that volume up, which means that we're going to target anybody who has contact with our ideal client. And oftentimes we're looking at early intervention or, that 6 to 12 range. Well, who engages with our ideal client in that age range? SLPs, OTs, pediatricians, psychiatrists, psychologists, mental health therapists, daycares, even libraries are folks that could be worth reaching out to. You need to cast a wide enough net, knowing that there are going to be many people who, especially mental health therapists, who say, sorry, we don't work with that population. Yeah, have a nice day. Sounds good. Fair enough. But the mental health therapists who do work with the population we're looking for, the play therapists, the early intervention mental health therapists, they are the folks who would be amazing referral sources, and they never get contacted because no one thinks to contact them. So you got to do this at volume, which means casting a wide net. If you're watching, this is where you screenshot. We're going to go through this, but this is something that I'm happy to talk about later on in a follow-up conversation as well, if you ever want to reach out to me one-on-one. First, you have to get the leads. I go through Google Maps. I go through directory sites. I use tools that scrape information. Apollo AI and Outscraper are my preferred. And I use AI to classify and summarize the leads. Now, keep in mind, when I say scrape, that just means getting publicly available information faster. There's nothing that we do that is, illegal. We're not buying data from shady brokers. We are simply taking publicly available information and putting it on a spreadsheet faster than doing it manually. That's what scraping is. Next, we're going to do the initial cold outreach. There are 3 stages of conversations or stages of a relationship. There is cold outreach, there is following up with warm leads, and then there is engaging with hot leads, those who have already given you referrals. So step 1, the initial cold outreach, your goal is to contact as many people as you can and push them into the next stage, the warm leads. So what does that look like? You have to think about what is going to be effective at scale for your company. Cold calling is probably the best way to contact as many people as possible with as much personalization without having to spend all that gas money going from spot to spot. The problem is it takes a little bit more time versus email campaigns that are a lot faster. And you can actually automate many of this, right? Do 3 to 4 automated follow-ups to try and maximize the results of this campaign. However you want to do it, cold calling, emailing, even manually messaging in some other way, you have to set an aggressive goal. Minimum for me is 60 introductions per day during the 9 to 5, Monday through Friday business day. You have a lot of leads and you have to get through that list efficiently so we can see how many folks actually convert to referrals so we can shift to the next one. Do it a lot, measure what's working in terms of the messaging that you're sending, and then track your data to see what comes of it. Next, we're in the warm leads. These are folks who have responded positively. They want to do a meeting. They want to talk a little bit more. That's where you conduct those initial meetings, and do not start this meeting with, hey, I'm looking to get referrals for my ABA company. Focus on value. That means providing diagnostic support in terms of guiding people to the diagnostic provider who maybe don't have a diagnosis. It means providing resources like toilet training, maybe trainings themselves. It means providing flyers that are more than just a brochure about how great you are. At its core, it's what can I do for you? Then you follow up monthly and create these actual relationships, right? So referrals don't come from the first meeting, they come after the 3rd or 4th month, right? Maybe 2 months if you're lucky. So follow up monthly and keep these people in a cycle of engagement, keep the relationship alive, keep you at the top of their mind until they transition to the final step where following that they actually end up sending you a referral. And instead of sending, miscellaneous marketing materials at that point, then you enter into care collaboration. You're going to have your BCBAs engage with these providers clinically, not in a marketing sense, but clinically engage with the pediatrician on how they can collaborate, talk to the SLPs about the language goals, talk to the OTs about the movement and sensory goals, engage with these providers clinically so that your company, once again, stays at the top of their mind. The key with care collaboration is that yes, it needs to stay primarily clinical, but the second and third order effects of being a company who cares enough to collaborate nonstop and provide amazing outcomes is that when that SLP needs some place to recommend for an ABA company, instead of just listing out a couple places who she knows on Google or they know on Google Maps, they're going to say, these are the places I know this company I have a lot of experience with and I see really good results with. So, local outreach marketing. It is a lot of work. In fact, it's so much work that most people are not doing it, which is why it is a great opportunity for you to do it. You'll have plenty of no's. There will be plenty of people who ghost you. But the thing is, when you do it at scale, you don't need to worry about all of the no's because you really only need the 5 to 10 to 20 yeses that become referral relationships for you to develop an amazing referral focused marketing strategy. So in general, throughout all of this, remember you're always representing your business, your brand. Be kind, remove folks, stop calling them if they ask, and scale your marketing with honest relational conversations. Ooh, I went a little longer than I thought. If you want to dive into any more of this, we have a little bit of time as well for some back and forth if anybody has questions. You can always reach out by email, matt@adadigitalmarketing.com. I'm active on LinkedIn, Matthew Harrington. I do videos, I do pictures. I also post to my family because they're pretty cool. And of course, if you want to contact me, my website's right there. You can email me or fill out the contact form on the site. That's all I got. I would love to answer any questions if we have a little bit of time.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, drop them in the chat. And yeah, your point about the perception of your physical location when you pull up, the landscaping is a mess. I had that same experience with my daughter when she was going to Montessori school. We pulled up to a school, and I didn't even go in. I just said, this isn't the place. Let's just go look at the other school. I was concerned about security. I was concerned about, the ability for a parent to walk in. Like somebody had walked in before us when we were in the parking lot, the door opened, and I could see kids inside the front of the building. And I thought, this is a place where people can walk in from the public before they're identified, before anything is going on. And I can see the kids right there. They don't know who I am. Like, this is not the place. So, there's those types of concerns that parents have when, you're taking your young child somewhere to be supervised and left in the care of the people that are running the facility. So, cleanliness, organization, security, like these are all things that you want to have in place when you have people coming into your physical location. And what's going to be perceived even more than your physical location is your web presence and having those things, being able to give them the opportunity to see you for what you are as a company. I go on people's Google business profile all the time, and it's 5 pictures of their logo, and like this. You want to have pictures. If you're a physical location, have the pictures of what the location looks like, what's inside it. Help them find it. Help them understand, what your experience for your child is going to be like when they go here.
Yeah, I think the lack of the lack of an online presence, especially when you first get started, I think is a bigger detriment than most people consider. You do not need a perfect presence. Like you do not need to have the beautiful website that costs $30,000 day one. But you do need to have a, relatively speaking, modern website with a decent logo and a business profile. Like there are kind of basics, and that's why I mentioned like the templatized marketing systems that the big folks use. That is your system, right? Don't spend $500,000 to develop it like they did. Just take their end result.
Yeah, it's not actually a Pablo Picasso quote, but it's still a good quote. But he's credited with saying, good artists create, great artists steal. But taking a system that already functions, that already works, that somebody has invested a massive amount of money in, like you suggested with the In Bloom company, they already dumped a bunch of money into figuring out what works. Take what they have, build build on that and adapt it for yourself. And for those of you that are not using AI in your business, what are you doing? Like, this is an extremely powerful tool that you can use to generate content and to put things out
Yeah.
on your site, and make sure that you have accurate
Yeah.
depictions.
And that's another, I love AI. I think yeah, AI is massive. I think that there's also a lot of misconceptions about the way that content is viewed with AI. Good AI content that provides value is not punished by Google, right? Google at this point knows that you're using AI. The current standards is not AI means you don't get visibility. The current standards is, are you providing value? Is the content good? Do you have topical authority? Are there other content? And if that's yes, then they don't care if it's written by AI. And that could change, and I'm sure it will. Google changes their stuff every like 6 to 9 months. But at its core, at least in the SEO world, AI content is not punished. Bad AI content is punished, just like bad human written content is punished.
Yeah, and how do you make bad AI content? Well, if you're writing 20 words to generate 1,000 words, you're going to end up with bad AI content. If you're writing 3,000 words to break it down into 1,000 words, that's going to be good AI content. Like, the AI is really there to take what you've put down, what you've taken out of your mind, and just kind of, I call it, just a brain dump, right? You're just going to brain dump everything that you're thinking about this topic. And we do it all the time on our ABA Impact. We do it all the time on our tech stuff where, okay, Derek is going to have a rant about this technical thing and how you need to take care of it. But it needs to be broken down to people who aren't really going to be up on exactly what MFA is. I can throw the MFA word around all the time, and people might not actually understand what the heck that means. So if I can tell, my chat GPT, I'm going to rant about this, but break it down so that someone can read this who's not a tech person, or not, how can I break this down for parents whose children have recently been diagnosed with autism, but they don't know all the terminology yet. They don't understand all the different concepts. And let me address their concerns with my expertise without having them have to go back to school and learn a different language, right? So that's really where AI is powerful. But if you're hammering, a 3,000 word rant into your chat GPT, where you're just pouring your heart out and getting it down on paper digitally, and then letting the chat GPT system kind of translate that for you, edit it, organize it, make sure that things are readable. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
Before I send an email to somebody, like, if it's something super detailed and I need to make sure that I'm covering all my bases, I can be disorganized when I'm jumping into that conversation and just unloading everything. And then at the end of it, think, oh yeah, I forgot this one thing. And you're just constantly adding stuff in, and it's going to give you a good result. And if you say, here, write me 1,000 words on all the 10 things that parents need to know about ABA services, and then you just leave it at that, you're going to get bad AI content. If you sit down and you write what you believe those 10 things are, and you put 3 times as many words in as you really need for your page, and say, break this down and have I missed anything? And then you can discuss those other points that it's missed. That's where you're going to end up with good AI content. And it is actually, and to say, optimize this for ABA services in Cleveland, Ohio, or in-home ABA services. And then a couple things that I always like to mention anytime we're talking about marketing or web presence is, your website needs to have your mission, your phone number, and your physical location, whether that's your address for your physical location or a service area. I can't tell you how many, we literally have an AI system that crawls and looks at ABA therapy websites, and we have a difficult time figuring out where some of these people are, because there's no phone number. It's just a contact form, which is good. You don't want to just plaster your email everywhere, but a lot of parents are looking at your website and they're asking the question, like, are they even available to come to my home? Do they have a physical location? There's a lot of information that's missing. So make sure you're thinking all that through and getting it up there. And I love to hear ABA marketing specialists and people talk about how you don't need to go out and dump a bunch of money into this. Like, cover the bases where you can cover the bases. And this is a system that you're just going to always be evolving. We're about to do a major rework on our company website. Every iteration of our IT company's website is completely different from the last one. So this isn't your one and done. This is my opportunity to put my flag in the ground with my website. It's got to be perfect. It's got to be extravagant. No, get a flag in the ground, make sure people know how to find you. And then the opportunity for the $30,000 website, if you want to go that way, will come after your business is generating revenue and that you've built on it and you've built a good collection of content. Where do we find you?
Go to my website, abadigitalmarketing.com, LinkedIn, Matt Harrington, and I'm on Facebook all the time as well. There are various things. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been a great experience. Talk to y'all soon.
Thank you, everyone.
You're already doing the work, investing your time, your energy, and your vision. So let's make it count. Build something that works without breaking you. The BCBA Blueprint is the way. Get started for free with our foundation course.